All right, can you hear me this time? You can hear me.
There we are.
Oh, there you go. Now it says you're connected to audio.
Yeah, in the past when we've come on, it's given us the choice to join the audio, like it comes up as a pop-up.
Gotcha.
But
Yeah.
for whatever reason, the link didn't do that this time around. So
Yeah.
anyway, we have to click a join audio thing at the top.
I see.
Alrighty,
Yeah, I think Zoom has made some changes in the past week or so.
Okay.
You guys, it's been so long since I saw you. It's like 5 days.
Yeah. Have you ever been to to where Adrian's been?
To Egypt? No, I've never been to Egypt. That's why she got to teach you guys about it.
Wow, Egypt is cool.
Yeah, it was super cool. I watched the lesson. It was really cool. I loved how there was so much green along the river and the history with the pyramids and the pharaohs. Super interesting. Yeah, I've never been to that part of the world. The closest I was maybe Morocco. Are you guys wearing bunny ears because it's April and it's almost Easter?
Yeah. Yeah.
Have you gotten any eggs yet and candy?
Yesterday was we have fake eggs. Yesterday was Palm Sunday.
Wow.
That's when Jesus came riding on a donkey into Jerusalem.
Oh, Jerusalem. Interesting. Maybe in one of our lessons we can talk about Jerusalem. What do you think about that?
Yeah. Yeah.
I've never been, but I think some people in the family have. So maybe we can have another guest speaker talk about their time in Jerusalem, like Uncle Gary, Adrian's dad.
Yeah.
That could be cool. What do you think, Rach?
I'm into it.
Sweet. You guys, I have socks that I think you would really like. Do you know who Forky is?
Yeah.
Check out my socks. How cool is that?
What does it say other than Forky?
It says, "Who am I and why?" I've been told this is the thing he says in the movie. Is it true?
It's been a while since we've seen it. Maybe we should watch it again.
He loves trash.
He loves trash?
He thinks he's trash, but he's not.
Wow.
He's a
Okay.
toy.
Do you think Uncle would watch Toy Story 4?
Has he ever watched Toy Story? And has he ever watched Toy Story 2, Toy Story 3?
I've seen Toy Story 1 and Toy Story 2 and Toy Story 3, but I've never seen Toy Story 4, so I don't even know who Forky is. I just saw the socks, and I was like, I need to buy these socks because I love them.
Do you think he would like Forky?
Yes. He's so funny.
Why? He's so funny?
Hey, Bonnie.
Oh.
No more Andy. Only Bonnie.
I see. I got you guys a gift. Do you want to see it?
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to get it. But it's not a Forky, but you're not going to get it until I come back to the US, which is not going to be until this summer. But check it out.
Whoa. What is it?
It's a big poster of Frozen, Elsa, and who's the other one?
Anna and Olaf.
Yep.
And Gail.
Yep.
Gail is the leaves.
Pretty cool, right?
Gail.
Isn't that a nice poster?
Yeah, what's that like? Yeah, where can we hang it up?
We'll have to think about that. How do you think Uncle Drew will fit that in his book bag?
I have no idea.
It rolls up. It'll be it'll fit. I'm gonna have to get a bigger bag. I also got a gift for your dad. Do you want to see what I got your dad?
Yeah.
Boom. Think he'll like it?
Oh yeah. What is it? It's a poster of Iron Man.
Yeah, all these different Iron Man comics.
Do you like it?
Cool, right?
Yeah, so cool. Did you give Mommy anything? She's your sister.
No, I don't love her enough. I love you guys more.
Is that true?
Of course not. I love all of you.
No, but Uncle thinks when he sees things that remind him of people he loves.
Oh.
So I bet there wasn't a poster that reminded him of things that I love.
Well,
Actually,
coffee. Is there a coffee poster?
I did get more gifts, and one of them is for Rachel, but I'll save those for tomorrow, and I'll show you what I got them tomorrow. Because we need to talk about Canada, and we only have so much time. What do you think? Should we talk about Canada?
Yeah. Niagara
All right.
syrup. Niagara Falls and maple syrup.
Okay, so today you're teaching me, is that right?
Yeah.
Have you guys been to Canada?
Yeah. But it was a really long time ago. I was a baby. I remember there was a lot of ducks.
A lot of ducks?
I was a baby when I went, and we went.
I see.
And we were. Wait, did we go down?
We did not go down.
No. We just went past it. We went. We got blue coats and we walked near it. And I was a baby, so the thing was so big for me.
Do you know Uncle Drew was with us on that trip? Yes, he was with us.
Yeah, I was there.
Only time he went?
No, he's been to Canada other times. But
Yeah, other times. So, Canada is actually really cool. A lot of people in America don't actually know that much about Canada, even though it's our neighbor right above us, and it's massive. Look how big it is. See how big it is? It's so big. It's the second biggest country in the world in terms of land. And it's really far north, which means it's really cold most of the time. And question?
What is the biggest?
The biggest is Russia. So remember, we've got Russia, and then Canada, and then China, and the U.S. These four right here are the four biggest in terms of the most.
How about that white one? That white one looks pretty big.
It is pretty big. That's called Greenland. But Greenland is, it's also interesting the way the map shows. Countries that are in the north appear like they're bigger than they actually are because the world is round, right? The world's not flat. And so if you took a ball, right, and you cut a ball and tried to like make it into a flat piece of paper or something, it would be a little bit distorted. So the way that the map works is that continents and pieces of land that are really far north near the pole or really far south, they get stretched on the map. So Greenland looks bigger than it actually is.
See on the globe here? Things are big. And so Greenland up here is big, but it's not as big as like Russia or as Canada, even though it looks pretty large there. Make sense?
Yeah. I made this. This was my first thing made in the Alice crate that made me get And guess what? Cool. The heart is where we live.
Okay.
Guess what? You can see it.
What's that, Hayden?
I can't see what I'm doing. I have a compass.
You have a compass? What do you do with the compass?
I don't know how to read compasses. I do. I'm not giving it to you because it was a birthday present.
So what would you do with the compass, Quinn?
I would read it, and when I saw like geese flying, I would like see where they would go. And like if I was hiking, I would use it. Like
I see.
Yeah, I know like northeast. I know north, northeast, west, southwest, south.
Lots of directions.
Mm-hmm. Which direction is Canada from us?
North.
Yeah, let's learn some more about.
Yes. So Canada, it's really big, just like the U.S. And you know what that means? It has the biggest international border of any two countries in the entire world. See, the border is so long. It goes all the way across the U.S. and all the way up through Alaska. So it's the longest border between two countries in the whole world. And as I said, we kind of already talked about this, but Russia is really big. So is Canada. Canada is actually the size of all of Europe. It's the same size. So it's huge.
Whoa.
Yeah. But one of the interesting things is that despite it being really, really big, it doesn't have that many people. In fact, here's a list of all the countries with the most people. We talked about China. We talked about the United States, Brazil. We've talked about Japan and Mexico. We'll talk about tomorrow. Here's Egypt. There's all these countries that have more people. Germany has more. What else have we talked about? Tanzania has more. Spain has more. Colombia and Argentina. Where's Canada? It's number 40, the 40th largest. It only has like 40 million people, just under 40 million.
And then there's Morocco.
Yeah, so it's about the same size as Morocco. So they have all this land, but the same number of people as Morocco, little Morocco. And you know what's interesting is almost all the cities, the vast majority of the people live right near the border, within 200 miles of the border. All their major cities are really close to the US because it's so cold when you go up north. The further up you go, the colder it gets. And we'll look at how cold it can get in a second. But I also wanted to point out
what languages they speak.
Exactly. So the whole country speaks English for the most part, but there's also this area in the northeast corner that mostly speaks French. And they speak both French and English there, but French is the primary language for a lot of people there. And that's because the history of Canada, just like you'll remember with other countries where sometimes they were owned by other countries for a period of time, Canada was owned by England and France at different periods of time. So they have both French and English influence. And the US came from England as well. That's why we speak English. Originally, the US was owned by England for a while. So I said it can get really cold, and I was not lying. They can get a lot of snow. They're very used to snow. In fact, some parts of Canada get snow all year round, or at least a lot of the year. And they make giant snowmen like this. What do you guys think? Would you want to live where there's snow all the time?
Yeah. No.
No? You don't want to dig your car out of the snow every single day?
It would kind of be fun. But
It'd be fun for a little while. You might get tired of it.
Some nice weather, at least.
Yeah.
I want at
get
least
some nice weather, fortunately.
Press on the snowman again.
The snowman.
And then there's Olaf
drinking
under
a coffee.
There's Olaf under it.
Really?
Right under it.
Oh, yeah. How funny is that? Wow, it's a giant Olaf.
Oh my gosh, it's so huge.
Big. That is enormous. What is his nose? It's like, that can't be a carrot. It's too big. Crazy. Okay, so much snow. And in fact, they have so much snow. Well, this is kind of related, but 5% of their population, 5% of the people live there are known as Inuit or Eskimos. Eskimo is what they used to be called. Have you ever heard of an Eskimo?
Yeah.
They live in igloos all the way up in the north where it's really, really cold. And they look more native. They're the natives to the land. So they've been living there for a long, long time. And they live in things like this. Not as much anymore. They don't really live in igloos anymore. They only have igloos out in where they go hunting, because they'll go out and they'll hunt for fish and different things that live in cold climates. And so they'll stay in igloos while they're out hunting. Do you know how an igloo works?
It's made of ice and snow, blocks of ice and snow.
Yeah. And do you know why it keeps them warm? Because ice and snow is really cold. So how would it keep them warm?
I don't know.
Well, you know how your body's kind of warm? Like if you touch your body, or it's warmer than everything around you. When you're inside an igloo, it basically traps the heat. So your body gives off heat, and even though it's really cold, because it all gets trapped inside, it slowly heats up the little room. It's like a little mini heater, heated by yourself. And so if you and your family are in an igloo, you heat up the little room. Isn't that crazy?
It's crazy.
Yeah. So it'd be cold when you go in, but after you're in there for a little while, it starts to get a little bit warmer.
That's cool.
It's super cool. And one of the things that's cool with Canada is when you go.
Lights.
Yeah, in Canada you can see the northern lights when you go all the way to the north, because it goes so far north. So they have it in Iceland, and they have it in like Finland and Norway and a lot of other countries like that are far to the north. But Canada is one of them.
Oh my goodness.
And they have a lot of really cool skiing and snowboarding. They've even hosted the Winter Olympics there in a town called Whistler. And I was actually in Whistler last summer. They, in the summers, have people go up in the mountains for hiking and people ride bikes. That's what I got to do because I was there in the summer. So I rode a bike through the mountains. Really cool. But sometimes in the winter, they do snowing, or they do skiing and snowboarding. What do you guys think? Would you ski or snowboard or sled or go down on your stomachs with a shirt off?
All of them.
All of them?
Really? The last one?
You would go down on your stomach with your shirt off?
No.
That's what he said.
That sounds a little cold. That sounds a little cold.
All of them except the fourth one.
Yeah.
I think I know their favorite sport.
Have you ever gone skiing or snowboarding?
I've been snow tubing before.
Snow tubing. Okay. Well, they have that too.
Skiing or snowboarding.
Maybe someday we can go skiing and snowboarding together.
I know how to ski though. I've just never done it.
Yeah. And you can save your thought on favorite sport till later. That one's towards the end. So one of the things that's really interesting is because it gets so cold, even in the cities, it gets really cold in the winter. And they have a city called Ottawa. It's the capital of Canada, where the river that goes through the city freezes every single winter. And the whole community, they go and they commute to work on the river. You go and you put on ice skates, and instead of taking the train or taking a car, you just put on ice skates, kind of like rollerblades for the ice, and you just take the river to work. See?
You just ice skate?
Yeah, you just put on ice skates and you hop on the river.
Whoa.
Yeah, super crazy. But it's not always that cold in Ottawa. In the summers, it can be really beautiful and green. That's one of the things that Canada has, is really nice air and beautiful trees and beautiful cities.
I would like to go to Ottawa because they have like so much snow and we got like the smallest amount of snow ever this year.
Yeah.
We couldn't even go to our favorite sledding.
I know, that's come up a few times, learning about all these countries with snow.
Yeah.
And like, but it gets really nice in the summer too.
Sure.
So
Yeah, it does. There's a lot of cities that get really nice in the summer. Like one of them is called Victoria. And this one's all the way over on the west side of the country, out near California and Washington. And I got to go here and they have beautiful flowers. So, so pretty. And so I got to walk around this area with the flowers and the historical buildings and the harbor.
Yeah, I've actually been to that one, girls.
I want this one.
Yeah, the family. We all went there one year on vacation.
Wait, I went.
No, you weren't born yet because I was still in high school.
Yeah.
Sorry.
When we were younger.
Nice.
Back when I was your age, Hayden, that's when I was there the first time. And the city of Victoria is on Vancouver Island. And so Vancouver Island is beautiful. It has tons of trees and it has lakes and all kinds of nature. So I got to go hiking and they have beautiful gardens like this. I got to walk around this garden. Yeah.
I want to go there. I need to go there. So pretty.
Does it remind you of any gardens in Pennsylvania?
Yes.
What garden?
Longwood Gardens, but 3,000 times beautifuler.
They're both really beautiful. It was very similar to Longwood Gardens. They're two of the top-rated gardens in the world. And check out this photo. It's a tree growing on top of a stump in the water. I saw that. I saw that tree when I was there.
Floating? Was the stump floating?
No, it was an old tree that had fallen over and it like got lodged into the water, but it's been stuck there for so long, and it's a lake. And I guess moss and a tree started to grow on top of it. A new tree.
Is it super, super tiny tree, or is that
really
like
tiny? Yeah, it was like 1/3 the size of Hayden. It was really small.
Wait.
So it was like up to like not even to your waist, like a little higher than your knees.
Really small.
Is how tall that tree is.
Wait, so like
it's like up to here.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And one of the interesting things that they do in Vancouver Island is they do storm watching. So this is one of the things they'll do. They'll go out to the beach, and when storms come in, they'll just watch the storms. Have you ever watched the storm at the beach?
Yeah.
Well, they get really, really big storms there sometimes, and big waves will come crashing over the rocks. And so it's really beautiful.
I've been at a beach once when there was like a rainstorm. It wasn't thunder. It wasn't like a thunderstorm, so it wasn't dangerous really. But there were really big waves, and I kept boogie boarding over them. They're so fun. It was like so dark in the sky.
Wow. That sounds pretty wild.
It was so fun. Mm-hmm.
Pretty wild.
He just floated over the waves. I know, I just love to. You
Great.
went like far deep into the. I know, I love going so deep into the ocean.
All right, let's
So
hear
this
about this.
city was my favorite city in Canada. It is called Vancouver, and it is beautiful. It is one of the most beautiful cities in the world. And look at a photo of this city. It is built all around water, and they have mountains in the background. Look at how beautiful that is. What do you think, Hayden? Looks like you're considering if it's beautiful or not.
But I think the one that Mommy went to was a tiny little.
You liked it more, the one with the flowers?
The small.
Really nice. And one of the things that's interesting is Vancouver, that's the one we just looked at. Victoria was the one with the flowers. And Seattle is in the US, right down here. And they're all really close. They're close to the border. In fact, you can take the train, you can go by car, you can take a ferry from Seattle to Victoria or Vancouver to Victoria, so you can go by boat. Yep. And actually, when I went to Vancouver the first time, I went by train. And you know what happens when you cross the border?
What?
You go through customs. And customs is where they check. Remember when I told you the story about when I went and walked over the border from Argentina to Brazil and from Brazil to Paraguay, and they asked me if I was a penguin? You remember that story?
Yeah.
So they didn't ask me if I was a penguin when I entered Canada. They knew that I was a human, but they did pull me aside for extra questions. They thought I was suspicious. Because usually most of the people who walk across the border, they are dressed in a business suit or they're going to visit family or they have some normal story. And when I went over the border and the person, he asked me, why are you coming to Canada? And I was like, I'm just coming to hang out. And he was like, what do you mean you're just coming to hang out? I was like, I've never been to Canada. I'd like to see Canada for a couple of days. And he was like, what do you do for work? And I was like, well, right now I'm not really working. I'm just kind of traveling and working on some new projects, and they thought that was suspicious. And so they pulled me aside for extra questions. And they asked me all kinds of questions. They asked me 40 different questions about who I am and where I'm from and why I'm coming to Canada and all of these things. And at the end, they decided I was safe. They were like, you seem like a normal person. But they thought I was suspicious.
Well,
Weird, right?
Would like maybe dangerous or maybe a troublemaker. Do you think that you would have decided that Uncle Drew was safe or a troublemaker?
Safe. Troublemaker.
That they weren't sure, which is why they pulled me aside. They thought I could be a troublemaker. They thought maybe I was bringing drugs or maybe something bad, right? Something I wasn't allowed to be doing. But they checked me out. They looked at my bags and they were like, okay, you're just a normal person.
They saw his Anna and Elsa poster and they knew he was safe.
That's what it was. My favorite place in Canada was Banff. And Banff is the most beautiful park in all of Canada. And the city right next to Banff is called Calgary. So this is the city of Calgary. You can see a photo of it. It's very clean, very, very calm, and pleasant to hang out in. So here's a view of what it looks like. You see there's this one city right along the river, and Banff is just about an hour and a half drive away, and it is gorgeous. This is the town. So the town is right next to a giant mountain. And so it's really cute, and you can go and you can get chocolate and you can get wine and you can have nice little snacks. And then you go and you do hiking during the day, and you go out and you see lakes that are so blue and so beautiful that you almost don't believe it. It's like when we looked at Patagonia in Argentina. Banff is just as beautiful, if not more beautiful. They're both incredible. and look at it during sunrise. You get all kinds of different perspectives during the day. This is winter where there's some ice on the water and the sun's coming up, all kinds of craziness. That's real. I have photos like this too. I can send you guys that I took, selfies with my crazy face.
Whoa.
So pretty.
And they have all kinds of forest animals. So lots of bears and
Look at this
fox,
squirrel. There's a
squirrels.
squirrel.
They've got elk and moose.
Moose. Bear. Pops doesn't believe in moose.
Pops has some weird theories. That's
Polar bears.
Polar bears all the way up in the north. Oop. We don't need to go into that. Alrighty. In addition to having all kinds of animals, they also have the city of Toronto, which is very close to Niagara Falls. That's the one that you guys saw, Niagara Falls. So Toronto is one of the most diverse cities in the world and one of the most diverse in all of North America. Do you know what diverse means?
No. No.
It means there's lots of different types of people who look all different types of ways. So they've got white people and black people. They've got brown people. They've got people from all different countries, speaking all different languages, looking all different kinds of ways. And so it's very welcoming. And they have different foods from all over the world, people from all over the world. It's very interesting.
Yeah. Sounds cool.
And they have Niagara Falls,
Whee!
which you guys have seen. Does it remind you of any other waterfalls we've looked at?
Yes.
Which one?
The one in Brazil.
Iguazu?
Yeah. Iguazu
Yeah.
Falls.
Exactly. Yeah, Niagara Falls is a lot wider and it's like super clean. Like you see how it's just sort of cleanly cut like this? It's like one little loop, whereas the one in Brazil and Argentina, it's like, it's very tropical and it's like blasting out of all different locations.
So pretty.
So pretty. One city I haven't been to yet, but I really, really want to go and hope to go this year is called Montreal. And Montreal is also pretty close to Toronto, and it's supposed to be really, really fun, very artsy, really nice in summer, and a lot of people like to hang outside. So I'm really hoping I get to go there, which is in the French-speaking part. So right up here where it says Français. And the other big city in the French-speaking area is called Quebec. And one of the interesting things about Quebec and this French part of Canada is that twice in the past 100 years, this French-speaking part of Canada, they said, we don't want to be a part of Canada anymore. Or at least they thought maybe we don't want to be. And they put it to a vote back in the 1960s and in the 90s. And they voted on whether or not they were going to stay part of Canada or if they were going to branch off and become their own country. And both times they ended up deciding to stay part of the country. But because it's a different language and there's different culture and some different values, a few times they've debated whether or not they actually want to be their own country or stay part of Canada.
So they did the votes multiple times.
Yeah, it's happened 2 big times in the 60s and in the 90s, but both times they stayed. And you know, the US is kind of, there's some things like that too with the US. You know, the US didn't used to be as big as it is now. There were times when Texas thought about becoming its own country and branching away from the US, and Florida. And so, you know, there's even been rumors of California doing this at different times, but ultimately, for as long as the past 100 or more years, they've decided to stay one country.
Yay. I like Florida.
Florida's
I don't
cool.
want Florida for us. Florida's
You could still go.
I knew it.
The
favorite game is soccer. I knew it.
Actually, it's not soccer. Their favorite game is different. See where Canada is on the map?
But it says soccer.
It's soccer in most of the world. See the green and the soccer in all over Africa and South America and Mexico and Russia and Europe. Look at Canada. Canada and the US are different. In the US, you have American football, and in Canada, you have hockey, the ice hockey, it's called. Yeah. Ice hockey is their favorite sport because remember how cold it is and they have all that ice? So a lot of people, they'll just go outside and play ice hockey in the winter. In the same way that you can go outside and play soccer a lot of the year. There, a lot of people can go out and play hockey all around the year.
True.
But hockey can be a little dangerous. Do you know anything about hockey?
You can slip.
You can slip, but also it's very physical, very aggressive. They hit each other a lot. And sometimes they fight. They'll stop playing and they'll start punching each other. It's really bad. But that's what they do. And here's some photos. It's a very violent sport. Very different from soccer. If you punch someone in soccer, you wouldn't be allowed to play soccer ever again. But in hockey, sometimes they fight. Very weird. It's like boxing, except a little bit different. You're on skates.
Food.
Most interesting food, the most iconic food in Canada is called poutine. And yes, it has French fries. It has French fries and cheese and gravy. And sometimes they'll put bacon or some kind of meat on top of it too. But this is the most famous. It's called poutine.
Poutine. Actually, we ate bacon this morning for breakfast. With vanilla cinnamon pancakes. With vanilla cinnamon pancakes. They're so good.
Wow. Well, maybe next time you go to Canada, you can try some poutine for breakfast. Although it's more of a lunch or dinner food.
I think we should try it when we go.
I think so too. And you already know about this. You know about the maple leaf and the flag, right? They have the maple leaf on their flag. Do you know why they have that?
Because they make a lot of maple syrup.
Yes, because they make maple syrup because they have so many maple trees. They have tons and tons of maple trees with this exact
We have a
leaf.
maple tree in our yard.
Do you? Does it get beautiful and orange and red in the fall?
What color do the leaves turn?
Oh.
Yellow.
Yellow.
Cool. Yeah, so up there they can even go red. And so here's some examples of them turning yellow and red, and that's why they have the flag with the red maple leaf.
And
they have so
pink.
many, which is why
the pink
pink
one.
too. You see some pink? Yeah, maybe a little bit of pink. And they have so many that they take the sap from the tree and they make it into delicious maple syrup, which you
I don't
probably
know why
enjoyed on
we
your
never make
pancakes.
that. All we have to do is take the sap out of the tree, boil it, and then we have maple syrup.
It's a little bit more complicated than that, but yes.
You could also put some sugar in or something.
Mm.
Probably won't be as good as the normal one, but we could try it.
Yeah. So that is Canada. Questions, thoughts, comments, concerns?
I have a joke.
About
joke.
Canada?
Well,
Kind of.
Let's stick with Canada stuff now.
Yeah. Hey, did you have any questions about Canada or thoughts, things you learned you liked?
Yes. Do they send the maple syrup to other countries?
They do. Yeah, mostly to the U.S. But
We,
yeah,
you gave some to Mommy.
that's true. I did. And I also gave some to Aunt Ashley for Christmas last year.
But the glass that holded it wasn't so good.
Oh,
It kind of leaked.
That was something different. The honey that he sent.
Ah.
Yeah. Side note, when you sent honey a long time ago, one of the glasses was shattered in it.
Uh-oh.
So all the honey was over all the bottles.
It like came that way when it was shipped?
Yeah, I contacted Amazon and they sent a new one. So I got it in the end, but it was a glassy, sticky disaster.
Other thoughts on Canada? What did you guys like? What did you learn?
They can make lots of pancakes.
So many
because
pancakes.
of the maple syrup.
What did you like, Quinn, or learn?
I liked all the cities and all the snow. I didn't like the hockey. Because they're supposed to like...
by anything?
They're supposed to like soccer and they fight.
No, the fighting. Yeah, they're not supposed to like soccer.
Yes, they are.
Okay.
They like soccer too. They also play soccer. It's just not their most popular sport.
All right.
Alrighty. So you have a joke, Quinn?
Right now.
All right.
I